Hi guys, welcome to my new channel. If you followed me here for my beauty channel, this is going to be my more mom life, family life channel. I am a first-time mom. My son is about to be 6 months old in about 2 weeks, and I am married. So I have filmed this video before and it's on YouTube, but it's private and it's on my other page. I wanted to refilm this video and talk about something that's really hard about motherhood that not everyone goes through, but what I've gone through. And when I was first becoming a mom and when I was researching and doing all the research that I was doing, I never came across these videos. And what the topic is like things people don't talk about when it comes to breastfeeding. I want to make a video about my personal experience and what I have gone through so that I could be someone that is telling, I guess, the ugly truth about breastfeeding so that you are aware and you know what you're getting yourself into. So with this channel, I want to do like family vlogs. I do want to do more mom things. I'm obsessed with watching like what's for dinner videos, grocery videos, like hacks, stuff like that. So I want this to be just our area for me and my family to look back on and see, and just showing my journey with motherhood. And so I would love for my first video on here to be about breastfeeding. If you want to continue watching and learning about my journey with breastfeeding, then just keep watching. So I want to start from the beginning. I want to start when I was pregnant. So when I was pregnant, I would constantly make jokes and say like I didn't want to breastfeed, I didn't want to do any of that. I would just say it for selfish reasons as to why I didn't want to breastfeed, and my sister would joke with me and tell me I'm selfish and stuff. So at the beginning, I didn't want to breastfeed. I never thought about it. I never looked it up, nothing. So all I knew from experience is everything that my sister went through at breastfeeding. And I guess you could say my sister had the textbook perfect kind of breastfeeding journey, I guess you could say. She got mastitis, but other than that, she had like a really good journey breastfeeding. So that's all I knew. I didn't take the time to research. So when it came to my breastfeeding, when I gave birth, they ask you, are you going to breastfeed? And I didn't want to say like no, because I should at least give it a chance. So I did. From the minute he latched, that became my journey of learning how. Like I didn't even know the names for like techniques to breastfeed, none of that. And so he latched, that's where it all started. Every time you hear and see videos of people talking about breastfeeding, you never hear about the negative things about breastfeeding. I have always seen the positive things like giving your baby the nutrients it needs just from your body, everything like that. And those are all good things, but you never heard any of the like negative things. So never hearing any of the negative things about breastfeeding and going into breastfeeding not really knowing anything, you kind of go into it with a positive mindset like, oh my gosh, this is gonna be great. And then when the troubles come, it gets really hard on you. One of the first problems with breastfeeding to me is I never heard about when you have your baby and when you're in the first few days of breastfeeding, you actually contract and get crampy when they latch. So the first few days of breastfeeding are probably like the most painful because you're in pain and you just constantly cramp and it hurts. The second part that people don't talk about is your baby, and maybe it's common sense, but I didn't think this way and think about it like I am a brand new mom, but people don't talk about the latch issue. So my son and I really had a bad latch issue, and I think it was the first day, no, it was like, so I had him at night, and the next morning a lactation consultant came in and like was watching our latch and stuff, showed me like one way to breastfeed, and that was it. And I really didn't feel confident, and I was constantly like asking the nurses every single time, like, am I latching right? Am I doing this right? Like I was so scared I was not getting him enough nutrients, and I didn't think about it like they don't need that much in the first few days. But even then, I just felt like I wasn't doing what I was supposed to do, and the latch issue was huge. Like I couldn't get him to latch. They wouldn't let, like, I knew my sister had a nipple shield. I wasn't offered one. They don't recommend them. So nothing really happened, and nurses were like, you're doing fine, you're doing fine. And I just knew something was up. So we leave the hospital for, we leave the hospital, and usually you go to an appointment the day after. I was super nervous for this because I just still didn't know. It was painful. I was already in pain from breastfeeding, but I also didn't know if I was giving him enough milk. So we go, and the nurse at first is like, oh, he's doing great, blah, blah, blah. But then the doctor comes in, and she's like, I'm really concerned he's dropped weight. We need to get you in to see a lactation consultant immediately. So she got me in to see a consultant, and I went 2 hours after the appointment, and they noticed like my problem was like the flat nipple problem. And I showed her that he showed no interest. He would latch and then latch off. So she suggested a nipple shield, which I was like so glad that someone did that, and she actually gave me a nipple shield. So she gave it to me, and it started to work. But also something no one really talks about, and I've seen it happen multiple times, even though you're breastfeeding, you still have to supplement. So I had the nipple shield, and I was also told to pump, and after every feeding I still had to pump and feed him. So it was like a process. So for the first few months, I would say like a month, and it is so exhausting. Like, I don't even know how to say how exhausting it is. And on top of that, you're still learning how to breastfeed, and it is painful. Like, I really don't think people are, like, you see the cute pictures of people breastfeeding their babies, you see all that, and they talk about the beautiful things, but no one talks about how painful it is. Like, it is painful. I remember crying in like tears. I was so miserable, and I don't know why I didn't give up. I guess something inside of me, once you have that bond with your baby, you just want to do everything in your power to fight for what you want, and so you continue doing it. When I had gone to that lactation consultant, she told me that I needed to feed him every 2 to 3 hours because he had dropped weight. So I was attempting to feed him every 2 to 3 hours, but he refused. He did not want to latch, he did not want to eat, and it was literally a crying game between me and him. I'd cry, he'd cry, because he didn't want to eat, and I was forcing my son to eat because they told me I needed to feed him. So that was also rough, feeling like my son didn't want me, or I was still starving my child. It's a lot of, I feel like I'm not doing enough for your kid. Like, you just constantly feel that, and so it leads to depression, like serious, like bad depression. So I felt like I was starving him again because he was refusing to eat when they said they wanted him to eat. I was literally setting timers, like, okay, I have to feed him now, I have to feed him now. Into a month of doing that, my sister came to visit, and she was like, why are you doing that? Like, you are overdoing yourself. Like, you like don't need to feed him like on that. Like, wait for him to tell you like he's ready. After I saw the lactation consultant, and she was telling me I needed to produce all this milk, and the videos I had seen, people were trying to increase their supply, and necessarily I didn't need to increase my supply. So this is one of the most painful things about breastfeeding that I never heard of. Never knew what it was till I got one, was in pain, and my sister said, oh, I think you have that. To increase my supply, I was drinking over 80 ounces of water. I think I was drinking like 90 ounces of water a day. I was drinking 3 cups of mother's milk tea. I was eating lactation cookies. I was eating oatmeal every single day. And I was pumping after every feeding because that's what they had told me, and that's what the lactation consultant had told me to do. So doing all that, I had caused a very painful mess for me. Now, this is something no one talks about, and it is clogged ducts. So when you create an oversupply, or you skip feedings and stuff like that, your milk gets stuck and trapped and it is seriously so painful. In my entire journey, fingers crossed, I have not gotten one since I'd say he was about 3 months old. I was immensely, like, huge engorged, like, I don't know how. It was really, really bad. And no matter how much I fed him, I was constantly full and pain, and I was constantly getting clogged ducts. And those are so painful. And I was constantly like Googling and looking for things to help with that. But I literally tried everything in the world to get rid of that. And if you want a separate video on how to get rid of clogged ducts and all that, like, I can tell you, because I think I became a pro at it. And all of that was because I was over pumping and putting all those things in my body that I didn't necessarily need. After my sister told me I didn't need to feed him that consistently, and I had a huge oversupply, I had contacted my lactation consultant again, and I was like, I'm in pain, like, what did I do? And she's like, you don't need to pump. Like, this was a miscommunication between me and the consultant, because she never told me that I could stop pumping after every feeding. And I don't blame it completely on them, because I was still taking all those things in, but she never told me I could stop feeding, like trying to feed him every 2 to 3 hours, and she didn't tell me that I didn't need to pump after every feeding. So now the lactation consultant is telling me, after pumping at least 5 to 6 times a day, that I needed to wean myself off, and I couldn't cut that cold turkey. She said that you cut that cold turkey and you're gonna keep getting those clogged ducts really, really bad. So I had to wean off of pumping every, like, once a day, and even then it was rough. Like, these were my darkest times, because you're in pain. Your whole chest is in pain. You have like golf ball size lumps on your chest. It's so hard to get them out. So I would wean myself off pumping, and in that time, still, like, I was constantly getting them, and all of this, the pain, the feeling like I wasn't giving enough to my child, the oversupply, like, everything caused so much of a bad postpartum depression that I'm still dealing with to this day. I mean, it's gotten better because breastfeeding has gotten better, but yeah, so I had to slowly wean myself off of that so I could stop the clogged ducts, which were really freaking painful. In between all of this and getting all the clogged ducts, I was constantly wanting to give up. I'd get a clogged duct and I'd say, I'm giving up. After this, I am cutting my supply and I'm giving up, because I can't do this to myself anymore. And I'd get the clogged duct once again, and I wouldn't give up. I felt like, no, I can keep doing this. I can keep doing this. I'm telling you, after 20, I don't know, like, over, like, I think I had like 23 clogged ducts. You would think I'd give up, and I didn't. And my sister even said, if I were in your shoes, I would have given up. But you go through all this for your baby, and then you don't want to stop because of the bond you have. You're supplying and giving your baby all the nutrients and everything it needs for the baby to grow the first months of its life is amazing, and it's mind-blowing that our bodies as women can do that. So you think about that and you just don't want to give up. So I continued to fight, and I continue not to give up. And another hard part about breastfeeding after the clogged ducts would be my forceful letdown, because I had caused myself such an oversupply. When he would latch, milk would just shoot out. So he was constantly choking, and that's also very painful to see your baby choking all the time just from you trying to feed him. The forceful letdown was rough for my son, because milk was just constantly coming out and he couldn't control it. So it was just a constant, like, him getting off and choking, and it was just hard to see him do that. So finally I learned when to feed him when he's ready, and you know the signs, you know when your baby is hungry. I learned how to know when he's ready. Now we are 6 months in, almost, exclusively breastfeeding, and I love where I have come. And the first half was extremely rough, and I don't know how I didn't quit, but it's an amazing experience. And going into it, if you watch this video and you're wanting to breastfeed your kid and you're watching this trying to find out the ugly truth, now you'll go into it with a mindset like, this is gonna be rough, it's gonna take a toll on you, but you can do it as a mother. And I mean, if you decide to give up, and not necessarily give up, but do what's best for yourself, that's fine. Fed is best, and whether it's formula or breast milk, that is fine. If I end up having to stop my journey with my son, I will have no problem giving him a formula, because at the beginning of our journey he was supplemented with formula, so I'd have no problem with that. Fed is best, and you should feel comfortable with whatever you want to personally do. But yeah, it's not pretty at the beginning. You will get the hang of it, mom. Like, it will be really, really hard, but it's worth it. I could tell you 6 months in, like, it is worth it. And I love where we're at, and I hope to go on to a year, but we'll have to see where everything goes. So far it's going great. You still get sensitive and you still have pain at times, but it's just a good feeling knowing like that you're supplying the food for your baby. But this was just my beginning video about the ugly truth and my journey with breastfeeding that no one talks about. If you guys want that video talking about how to get a clogged duct out, please let me know, because I know it's rough and I think I've done everything, and I could tell you what worked best for me, what didn't work best, and everything I tried in between. But thank you for watching this. This was just my journey with breastfeeding. Like I said, this is going to be my family channel. Talk about motherhood and family things and stuff like that. If you have any more requests for any videos on this, please let me know. I will leave my Instagram down below. I'll leave my makeup Instagram, my makeup YouTube, everything down below. But please, if you have any recommendations, please let me know. Don't forget to subscribe and like this video, and comment down below what you didn't expect to hear about breastfeeding.